And a very big welcome to all of you. I'm Helen Graves, instructional designer with CVC and @ONE. A lot of acronyms floating around. CVC stands for California Virtual Campus, and @ONE is the online network of educators, which is the professional development arm of the CVC. And I am delighted that you're here with me today. I think we all probably agree that there is a link between the design of your course and student success. What may not be quite so obvious to instructors is how your design methods can impact your success with your courses. So today we're going to talk about 5 simple yet often overlooked strategies for making your course design and management faster, easier, and more effective. We're going to talk about branding, about using templates, various organizational strategies. Some of the ideas are aimed at making life easier for you, and others are going to increase the effectiveness of the course for students, which will, of course, have a positive impact on your experience as well. My plan is for you to leave with at least one, if not several, tips, ideas, and resources for your instructional design toolbox. So the first strategy, and actually, before we go there, I'm going to stop after each of the strategies for questions or comments. So if something occurs to you as I'm speaking, go ahead and jot it down so you're ready to share when we get to the little mini question part. So the first strategy for a more effective course is what I call branding. There is a terrific book called Brain Rules by John Medina. I recommend it all of the time. His thesis is that if we wanted to create an environment diametrically opposed to how the brain learns best, we would create something very much like a classroom. That's kind of a scary thought, isn't it? He then presents 12 principles, what he calls brain rules, as he based on how we know the brain works. Brain rule 10 is that human beings are highly visual animals and that vision trumps all our other senses. Brain rule 4 is that people don't pay attention to boring things, even if they should. When you put those 2 principles together, you've got a great reason to brand your course. You don't have to become a marketing expert. Even simple branding techniques will help grab students' attention, create recognition and familiarity, and build an emotional connection, all of which are going to support learning. The idea behind a course brand is to create consistency with color and designs and layout that are used for visual effect throughout the course. And there are 3 very simple ways to create a brand. First, you can choose a color theme. You don't want to go crazy and use color willy-nilly. I have seen instructors make every paragraph be a different colored font. Or before we had Canvas, people were making their page backgrounds all different colors. That's actually visually distracting for the learner. A general rule of thumb with the branding idea is to have 2 main colors and then maybe a 3rd color for accents. And these colors would then be used for things like headings, page borders, graphics, not for the page text. The second idea is to use consistent visuals for important or repeating course elements like your homepage, assignments, discussions, whatever. These could be things like page borders or call-out boxes. Maybe even each module overview page has a consistent banner, and the wrap-up page or the discussion or whatever all have a consistent visual image, whether it be a banner or something, so that it's just kind of a quick visual identifier for students. The third idea is to use graphics or icons that can identify repeating page elements throughout the course. So maybe you have a remember this graphic or tip graphic or read this or whatever it is. It'll catch students' attention and it'll be used consistently throughout so they immediately know what information they're going to get along with that little icon. Canvas now gives us also an array of font choices. So you could pick an attractive font for your headings or for your tip or something like that. I would strongly recommend, though, leaving the default font for the page text. Don't go wild with fonts in the text. That'll be as distracting as using a lot of color. But for highlights, you might consider in your branding, pick a font that you really like and use that for emphasis or for highlighting things. Let me show you a few examples to maybe get your creative juices flowing. So we're going to go into Canvas to a couple of courses. These are @1 courses, and this first one I'm going to show you is called 10-10-10, which focuses on how to approach laying out the foundation of the first 10 minutes, 10 hours, and 10 days of the course. So there's kind of a time theme going on, and you can see that the branding incorporates that time theme. And here on the homepage, it immediately sets the branding idea with not only that time theme, but also the colors. There's black and sort of a light gray, and then a red accent. And if we go in and look at the module pages, you're going to see on the overview that has been, if I can find the overview, where are you going? There we go. No, not that one. Excuse me. I have too many things open. So on the overview page, they've replicated the homepage banner, used it very similarly, but it's no longer just for the homepage. They're using it here, and they're counting down. So they've made little adjustments, but kept that same consistent theme throughout with the colors. Same with the discussion banners. It's got that idea of time, but it's slightly different, but it's marked as discussion. So when students get there, they immediately know what's going on. You also might consider using little sub banners for section headings, or the Canvas icon. If you're including as a resource a Canvas guide, you might use the little Canvas icon next to it. So it immediately indicates to students, oh, that's a Canvas guide. Another one, actually, do I want to talk about this other thing? Yeah, no, I'll talk about that later. So another course I wanted to show you is digital citizenship. It's another @1 course. And here we purposefully break the rule of 2 colors because we decided to give each module its own color. We chose this kind of splash image and then used 4 of them so that each week would then have its own color for all of the different accents. And so if we look in at week 1, you'll see that it has used, I believe, the green color for both the top of the icon. So for each week, that little splash image will change to be on top the color that it is for the week. And then with things throughout that module, they've used green for the page borders and the call out. And then in the next week, it's tan or purple or whatever it is. So again, just kind of unconsciously help students get oriented to what's going on. Not a big deal, nothing you have to do, just some ideas for you. Besides banners, you can use consistent graphics or icons for task or important or read this or whatever. Adding branding to your course is going to make it more visually appealing for students, and it can provide visual cues, as I was just mentioning about, to help orient them. It's also, I found it's more fun for me as the instructor to create a course when I get to add a little bit of creativity to it. I create all of my banners and page graphics in Canva, not to be confused with Canvas, but canva.com, which is a graphic design platform. A lot of people are becoming aware of it, so you may have already heard colleagues talk about it, or you may even already have an account. If you go to canva.com, actually, let me show you real quickly, because they have a free one. But if you don't yet have your account and you go into the, where is it? Oh, come on, why is it not? Oh, because I'm in my account. I have to get out of here. But I want to show you that. I want to show you the main home page. And of course, it's not cooperating. Let's see if it'll let me do it here. Plans, that's what I was trying to find. If you go to the main homepage, if you don't yet have an account, and from plans, if you select education, if you put in your college email, the .edu, you can get the upgraded features without having to pay for it. You basically get the the Premier plan without having to do the subscription. So make sure if you're going there and you don't yet have your account, go in, check plans, select the education option. And when I did it, I mean, I already had one throughout one, but I did a new one for my Coastline, and I just put my Coastline address. And when I logged in, I had the Premier features and tools and everything. So check it out. It's really fun. Yeah, I think they just started doing that, Jessica. It didn't used to be that way. So I'm pretty sure it's something new, and it's a great little perk for us that have our educational emails. Okay, so I have also created, I mean, Canva has a lot of tutorials, and there are also, if you just Google how to use Canva, you're going to find all kinds of things people have created. I created a very quick tutorial on creating a design in Canva that I will put in chat in case anyone wants to use it. It's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. The interface has changed since I created it. All the same tools are there, but the layout of the page and everything is going to look a little bit different. Just be aware that that's the case. You may still find it helpful, or as I said, there's going to be resources in Canva, as well as just if you do a Google search. If I tried to make a new video every time an application updated its interface, I would be spending all my time doing it, which is why I didn't create a new one for Canva. Okay, that's the basics on branding. So let me stop for a quick check-in. Anybody have a question about the idea of branding? Or anybody have an idea that's been sparked for you about how you might brand one of your courses that you want to share with us? Feel free to unmute. And I'll take a sip of water while you all are pondering.
Hi, Helen. You mentioned about font, choosing ones that we like, and I was wondering if there were any sort of best practices around good fonts to choose, bad fonts to choose, because there are some fonts that I personally find annoying. So where do you land on that?
Yeah, fonts can be a very personal choice, especially when you start getting into very unique fonts. If you're going for web usability, the more traditional Arial, Verdana, and Times Roman are the ones that it's generally said that's going to be able to be read by anything. But I don't think you need to stress out about it too much, because if you choose something like Bodoni or permanent marker, and it's not, it'll be rendered in some way on the person's device. It's not like the font, the text won't be visible to them. It'll just maybe not be in the font you selected. My best rule of thumb would be, Laura, just don't have a bunch of fonts willy-nilly, kind of like with color. Just pick something you like, one that is pretty readable. You don't want to pick some of those script ones that are very fancy and visually appealing, but are hard to read. You want to think about students that are maybe low vision, or for whatever reason with processing, something like that is going to make it more challenging for them. So stick with ones that are pretty clear and visible, easy to read, and maybe have a little bit of splash to them so that it's not just the same thing over and over again. Kind of a personal choice, though. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Thank you. That was a good answer. Thank you.
Certainly. And Fabiola, you have mentioned you wanted to brand your sports centered. Yeah, so you pick a theme. Exactly. That can be a great way to do branding. Nice idea. Anyone else want to Heike? Yes, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, hi, this is Heike. In the modules overview, where all modules and are housed, it's my understanding that we cannot pick colors there for like headers or to highlight headers or pages, etc. Correct?
Are you talking about on a Canvas page?
No, not on a Canvas page. And when you click on modules,
Oh, the modules area.
the whole modules
Correct.
area.
You cannot pick colors or anything there. It's only on the pages where you have access to the rich content editor that you're able to do that.
Yeah, I wish we could, because I teach concurrent classes and it's just really, it's challenging. It's okay.
It's kind of an accessibility thing. They Canvas tried to sort of narrow down where faculty could go wild with design. But yeah, you can only go wild on the pages.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yes, hi, Helen. Thanks for the class. I often use PowerPoint, voiceover PowerPoint in presentations, and they will give me design ideas. PowerPoint now has that design ideas function, which is often really nice for making my slides look better. I have not figured out, however, how to duplicate a design from one slide to say all the other slides. I get new design ideas for the next slide, which aren't always the same as the prior slide. Do you know that function, and is there a way to be consistent?
I don't know it well. I do know that, and I use a Mac, and so it may be if you're on a PC, sometimes Macs don't have all the same, we're discriminated against. We don't have all the same functionality that Microsoft gives to PC users. But what I do know is in whatever way you're using PowerPoint, there are both themes and the templates. So if you're using master slides for a theme, you should be able to just choose slide, and then from that drop down there will be choose a layout, and it'll give you like 9 or 10 options that are consistent with that theme. So it'll have the same little graphics and it'll have the same colors, and but maybe in a different layout and format. And yeah, Catherine, is also another way of doing it is to choose duplicate slide and then change the text or whatever is you need to change on the slide itself. I don't know if that's specifically going to answer what you were trying to get at, but without really being in PowerPoint and doing that, that's kind of the best I can give you with non-visuals.
That's a start. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And Tara recommended in theme, you can click apply to all. So if you've created a slide deck and then you choose your theme, it should be able to sort of translate what you've created. The big thing though for accessibility is to make sure and sorry, I'm looking at your picture instead of the camera, to make sure you are using the template slides, which have already been formatted for accessibility, rather than starting with a blank slide and just plopping in images and text boxes. Those will not be proper. They won't automatically be formatted for accessibility, and it takes a lot of work to make them accessible. So for everybody, if you're going to use PowerPoint, and I'm not a fan of PowerPoint, but if you're going to use it for whatever reason, make sure you're using the master slides, because that'll give you a leg up when it comes time to make them accessible. Thanks for the question. Okay, let's head into the next idea. And we can always come back if other ideas about branding occur to you. The next strategy is templates. I am a fan, well, as I say often, I'm lazy. I don't like reinventing the wheel. So I find templates to be very helpful. They can make life easier for both you and your students. However, I've noticed some faculty consider the word template to be a 4-letter word. And the concern seems to be that they're thinking they're going to end up with a cookie cutter course, or they're not going to have flexibility with course design. I actually think of templates quite differently. I see them as a valuable time saver. And why reinvent the wheel when you don't need to? And it goes back to that idea of consistency. Save your creativity and energy for the things that matter, like how you're going to present your content, building your assessments, crafting your student feedback. For things like your homepage or your orientation module, or even the layout of your assignments, discussions, content pages within the course. The smart way is to just create a visually pleasing layout once, and then duplicate that and edit the specific text or the specific prompt or the banner or whatever it is. Another very important benefit to the idea of templates is the student experience. Both research and anecdotal findings tell us that a major complaint for students in online courses is the lack of consistency. It's like a totally new adventure every time they go into another course. Every instructor is setting up their course differently. I've even seen instructors set up their own courses differently. Fortunately for our community college students in California, they no longer have to contend with taking classes in a multiplicity of course management systems, Blackboard, Moodle, Desire to Learn, Angel, whatever it is, because we're all using Canvas. But I see a lot of courses, and I can tell you, even within Canvas, it is very possible to lack consistency. So the value of consistency is that it reduces both anxiety and cognitive load. Students are less likely to be confused or have to go on a hunting expedition to find the content or the tasks that they need. If your modules, your content pages, your assignments all have a consistent structure, students are going to know what to expect and how to dive right into the material without floundering around. It's familiar, it's comfortable. They can focus on the content, not on figuring out what to do or where to go. And branding is also going to tie into this idea of consistency. Here's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Let me go again to Canvas. I've created two template examples to show you. One is an assignment template. And I've got notes for people. This actually is downloadable from the Commons, and I'll tell you in a moment if you want to use this as a starting point. I'll tell you how to find it, but it's just got built into it sections. It's already got headings that are properly formatted. It's got a little call out for the directions. It's got the additional resources. So even if you don't use this, if you come up with your own template, this gives you an idea of how you can come up with an easy to interact with layout, and that has built-in stuff that's going to be included on every assignment or every discussion or every whatever it is, and the resources. So you don't have to do that every time. You just create your template, and then, can I do it from here? No, I can't from here. But in the assignments area, I can then, example assignment template, if I go to the three little dots, I can duplicate it, and it will create another one called copy. So this might be my template. So then I'll say this one is week 1 assignment, whatever it is. And then I can go in and edit it, but the basic structure stays the same. Then I duplicate again for week 2 assignment, week 3. So you're not having to put in a whole lot of work every time. I've done another one for modules as well. And if you go to the Commons, if you're not familiar with Commons, it's a great place for sharing resources. It's always in the global navigation. So you would click the Commons link. And when you go there, if you do a search for my name, you could do a search for assignment template or discussion template, and you'll see a whole bunch of them. So you may want to see other ones. You don't have to use mine. But if you want to start with the one that I created, you do a search for my name, you'll find it quicker. And the discussion one says example discussion template with rubric already built in. And then there's example assignment template with a report rubric built in. Obviously, you can change the rubric. I just put it in there as an example of a rubric. So those are there for you in the Commons if you would like to use them. And yeah, once I've created the template, just duplicate it. All I have to do then is edit the goals and purpose, and then edit. Now I've lost it. Let's go into the template again. I would just then edit what's below here. I would edit whatever the directions are. Due date, if you want to include that as a section. I like to remind students, even though it's down here at the bottom, they don't always notice it. So I like to make sure it's very visible. And my submission and grading, I'm probably not going to have to edit that at all. Probably not going to have to edit additional resources, although I might. There might be something specific to that assignment, but it just gives you a head start on doing that kind of thing. So you don't have to recreate it from scratch. And once you've got these created, when you import into the next term's teaching shell, it's all going to come over so you don't have to recreate them every semester. The same idea can work for your homepage. Let's see if I have a good homepage on here. So I may have my week 1 homepage, and I have a layout that I like. And then for week 2 or unit 2 or whatever, I have it slightly different so that I have some different links here in the weekly modules. And maybe there's in unit 2, we're working on a report and I've got some resources in the quick links, but the layout stays consistent across the entire term. I just am swapping out my home pages. And then again, when you import into next semester's shell, all of those versions of your homepage are going to come over, and all you have to do is go in and say, use this one as the front page for this week or this unit. So templates can be used in all kinds of different ways. Let me ask you, what ideas or questions are coming up for you around the use of templates? Oh, good. Thank you, Martez, for putting links in there in the chat. Any questions or an idea that's coming up for you, or a way you use templates that you want to share with us? And Catherine, actually, I don't make my slides available because I don't include much text on them. So as a standalone resource, they're not going to be very helpful. The recording will be available, and I'll tell you at the end where you can find the link to the recording. Thanks for asking. Okay, let's go on to the next. I'm highly organized, and in fact, in a evaluation one time, my manager said I was organized to a fault. I don't think that's possible, but he did. He was not very organized, as you might guess. So the next 2 strategies and shortcuts center around organization, which is going to make managing the course easier for you. I'm going to share a tip about files and then share a tip about links. So files often become the online equivalent of an office junk drawer. Most every course I've been in ends up having a file system that looks something like this. And it may not be your course, but if it is, you might recognize this as soon as Canvas loads. There you go. So there's duplicates of the same image. It goes on and on and on. There's duplicates of, there's syllabi from 3 terms ago, and it just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. That's not going to impact students because they're not in your files area. But when you're going in trying to find something, or when you want to clean things up, it can make it a little challenging. So Canvas gives us the ability to organize with folders. And so you can use whatever organizational structure you wish. You might organize by module. You might organize by content type, images in one folder, documents in another, PDFs in another, you know, however you want to do it. But it just makes it a whole lot easier to find things. And for me, because I am kind of an organization nut, although I'm not organized to a fault, it disturbs me when I go into a files area looking like this. So if you're in a files area that is organized, you can see it's just folders of things. And within that folder is whatever is relevant to that organizational structure. It just kind of feels good. Images and documents, you can, and even if in your pages, consider using a naming convention. That's another way to add to the organization of it. So module 1, whatever. So everything for module 1 has that naming convention, and it groups them together in the files area or in the folder. So that's another idea. You can search alphabetically by name. If you've got a modular or categorical naming convention, doing that can make it really easy to find things. I will mention though, just because I learned this the hard way, by default, Canvas includes this folder called uploaded media. And when you're pulling in a new piece of media, whether it's an image or a document, it will initially always go into that folder. So you'll need to go into it when you're importing something new and move it to wherever you want it to be, whatever it is, whether it's an image, document, or whatever. And just be aware, even if you rename this folder, Canvas is still going to recognize it as the uploaded media folder. So every new item that you upload is going to end up in that folder. I tried it out. I renamed it thinking, okay, I just won't have an uploaded media folder. And I named it something. And every time I imported something into the course, it ended up in that folder. So just leave the uploaded media folder, but know how it's going to fit into your structure. It's kind of the landing place for everything new. And then you can move it. It's a staging area. Think of it as the staging area to the rest of your folders. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is links. Now, I know you've got links in your course. Maybe you've got a link to a Canvas guide, or you're linking students from a content page to a discussion or to a web resource. And unbeknownst to many instructors, the images on a Canvas page don't actually live on the page itself. In the code for that page is a link leading to the files area where the image lives. So if that image was not embedded properly on the Canvas page, the link breaks and then the image doesn't display. Broken links are always a bummer, but you don't have to go through every page of your course every semester double checking that all the links work, because Canvas has given us a tool that will do it for us. And I'm going to show you, it's called the Validate Links tool. This is what it looks like in a course. To find it, it's in every course. You're going to go to Settings in the course navigation. And at the very bottom of the right-hand menu, it says Validate Links in Course. And when you click that, it'll take you here. The first time you go to the page, it's not going to say restart. It's going to say start link validation. And it is literally checking every single link in the course. So it takes a while for it to run. So I usually click the button, go off and do something else, and come back 15 minutes later to see if it's done. But it then gives you, as you can see, it gives you a list of links that are potentially broken. 22, if you run your own link validator and you get something like this, don't worry, 22 isn't bad. I've seen courses with over 100 broken links. But the beauty is, yes, you have to go in and clean them up, but you don't have to find them yourself. Canvas locates them for you. And I'm just going to give you a quick explanation of what some of these findings are, because it can take a little bit of trial and error to figure out how to use this information. So what it does is tell you how many links it found that it identified as broken. You do occasionally get false positives, and I'll explain when situations where that might happen. But then what it's doing is showing you, this is a page called Textbook and Additional Resources. And on that page is one potential broken link. It is linking to unpublished content. So technically the link isn't broken. And if I go to that page, and I always like to open it either in another tab or another window so I don't lose my Validate Links page. So I'm going to open it in a new window, and I'm going to look for the link that says latest OpenStax textbook version. When I find it on the page, I can click it and see it's not really broken, but you notice the page isn't published. So the link would end up being an error link for students because they wouldn't be able to access it. So Canvas is very helpfully alerting you to the fact that you've got a link going to unpublished content. Do you really want to leave it unpublished? So that's one message you're going to get. Another one you might get is non-existent content. And that often means, well, let me show you. I'm going to open the page, how to record, and the link is record your video. Now, first off, we have an accessibility issue because you shouldn't have two of the exact same link on a page. That's a different course, webinar. So I go here and I find record your video. And when I click it, it goes to an empty page. That usually means I created a link and then I changed the name of the page, or I deleted the page for some reason. So the link still exists on the original, but where it's leading to, that page is gone. So if you renamed the page, you would just come back to the page where the link is located and relink it to the new page. If you had deleted that page entirely, you would need to remove the link. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. External links in this resource were unreachable. That is one you will get often, and it's often a false positive, although not always. But what's happening is Canvas is a secure environment, and so it doesn't really like to have links going outside of the course shell, because outside the course shell isn't necessarily a secure environment. So it's alerting you that this page, this link called Online Course Design Standards, is going to a different website. If I go to this page and check it, Online Course Design Standards, indeed, it is actually a broken link. Sometimes when you check it, like if I go to this one, which also tells me, and it's an external link, it's not really broken. So once I've checked it, I know that back in the link validator, I can just ignore that alert. I've already checked it and I know the link is okay. But you don't want to assume external links are always a false positive, because like that first one I clicked where it really said, yep, this page is broken, then you'd need to find the new URL and relink it on your Canvas page. Again, hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. What other ones do I want to show you? Okay, here's one that happens. Links to other courses. That means usually you created the link to an image or a document or whatever in such a way that it is what I call a static link. It's not flexible. So when you imported that content to the next course shell, the link broke because for students, because it's still leading back to the original course shell. And let me say that a little bit better. So I'm here in course number 1215. You can see up in the browser the course number of this shell. When I click this link that it told me was broken, I'm not seeing it as broken. But if I look up here, I can see, uh-oh, I'm suddenly now in course number 98. So I'm going to be able to get there because I'm this instructor. I'm in both of those course shells. But my students in course 1215 are going to get a broken link because they are not enrolled in course 98. So images and documents and other kinds of links can happen. So if you, that alert, if you see the alert saying it's linking to another course, generally speaking, that's what's going on. And you're going to see the link working. So you want to look at the course number to verify, yes, this is in fact a different course. I'm going to need to recreate this link so that it's staying inside this shell where my students are. If that didn't make sense to you, let me know. Was there one other one I wanted to mention? No, that's pretty much it. So who's got a question about either organizing your files or validating links? And Cheryl has put a note. Oh, it was about the uploaded media. Great. Thank you for putting that in there.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Joyce.
Is the example that you gave when you created, copy over your course for the next semester, sometimes my images are, like you said, in the first course and didn't come over. Is there a way to prevent that?
If you, generally speaking, I mean, there could be some other kind of issue local to your computer or whatever that I'm not aware of, but generally speaking, that happens because if I'm in, let me find my shell so I'm not messing up anyone else's. If I'm in the course, what I've seen some people do is they will go to a page and we'll just say, I want to link to my homepage from somewhere else. I'll grab the URL up here, and then that's what I'll use to create the link on the page where I want to set up the link. That's what causes a broken link, because this will create what I call a static link. It is only going to go to this place. If instead I'm using the links tool in the rich content editor, it will create what I call a flexible link, so that it'll link in this course and then it'll adapt itself. So when I import to the next shell, it automatically knows, keep that link in this course shell. Don't go to the original course shell. Does that make sense? Okay, great.
No.
So always link using the rich content editor. Don't grab, I mean, with a YouTube or something, obviously you have to grab a URL, but when you're linking to something within your course, make sure you're using the rich content editor method rather than grabbing the URL of the discussion or the page or whatever it is you want to create the link. Okay, and that should help. And then Heike, yes.
Yes, sorry, I needed to find my unmute button really quickly. So
No problem.
I, imported a course from last semester. I had imported it before and it went fine. And this time there were over 200 broken links. Now, yes, I had a meltdown this summer. Although I learned very quickly that the unpublished or published content part was
Yeah.
I still had over 100, and I teach art, so I have hundreds of, I don't know, if not more, images. So a lot of images didn't transfer. And I'm so glad I'm here. I'm just checking and wondering if this has to do maybe with the uploaded media folder, that I should have maybe moved all the, let's say I bring in new images every semester, right? So and it wants to import like I don't know, even though I imported the most recent course, it still didn't transfer those. So I don't know. I can maybe ask you separately sometime, but I just want to avoid this. But
yeah, it can be so frustrating to have that many. So and I've been there, I totally know. And without seeing the process and really looking at, I would hate to try to tell you, oh, this is what happened and this is what you need to do.
I will try that. And I did call Canva support and we spent an hour and we didn't, fix it. But what I did do, I could then copy modules. I copied modules from one course to another, and I got it clean. It seemed like I got a new clean plate. So that was nice. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, I'll check the upload media folder though. Thank you.
Yeah. And one other thing I've seen with validating links, and I have no explanation for it, is I will run the validator, I'll clean up the links, and then I'll run it again just to make sure. And new broken links will show up that didn't show up the first time I ran the link validator. I don't know why that is, but don't be surprised if that happens as you're cleaning up your stuff.
For the most part, they didn't show up again. Some showed still up, even though I cleaned them up. But I had to re-upload the images and re-alt tag them, and it was just a nightmare.
Yeah, it can be a pain. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. And people are putting some suggestions around those issues in chat. So
very cool. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Helen, while you're there, though, can you show her the files folder and then the uploaded media folder? It has an unpublished little I at the bottom. So if you just click on publish on the 3 dots, that might help with that transfer. And especially if you're doing all content, right? So now all those images are published. I learned that the hard way too.
Yeah, so if you're leaving things in the uploaded media folder that you're then linking to, you want to make sure it's published. Otherwise, it's going to be a broken link. If you're just using it as a staging area and then moving things into the other folders, you may not need to be concerned about it. But just to hedge your bets, you might want to publish it anyhow in case you
I have not paid attention to that, and I will do that. I might just copy because I want a clean start with my folder, my files. We'll see. Okay, thank you.
You bet. And is there anything that somebody has put in chat that I'm missing that you want to make sure everybody hears or that we talk about? Because chat's kind of going by and I may be missing things. Okay, great. So one more tip, I think one more. I call it What's Your Secret? And it's the idea of using a hidden module to hold notes, things that are related to that particular course, but you don't want available to students. For example, I know when I'm teaching and I'll be in the middle of the term and I'll realize, oh, I want to change that rubric, but I don't want to change it in the middle of the course because some students have already been graded with that rubric or, you know, whatever, or the assignment directions. Or so I keep a running list of things that I want to change for next time. And I keep it in my hidden module so that when I import into next term's module and I'm getting it ready, I've got that list of all the things that I wanted to fix so that I can get it done before I teach it again. Or maybe your branding notes, the fonts that you use for your highlight, or the color, the hexadecimal code, if you got fancy with your branding colors. So whatever notes that are going to be useful to you. I also keep, and actually let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Do I have it here? Yes. I call it instructor module. You might call it whatever you want to call it. I always leave it unpublished because I do not want students seeing it, but I just keep in it. So at Coastline, Sylvia Toelau has a wonderful resource site, and I always want to have that ready at hand. So I just keep that in my little hidden folder, hidden module. I've got my week 1 notes because, as Cheryl can attest, I never remember from term to term exactly what I have to do in the first week. I got my branding notes, my to-do list. I also keep common feedback comments for each of my assignments. Of course, I customize them for the students, but I end up saying the same kinds of things for the assignments from person to person and from term to term. So I keep my boilerplate comments there so I don't have to remember what are the things that I typically say when I'm giving feedback on this. Another way to use this that we do in At One, and you may consider as either a department or college level, we've got a facilitator, although in college case, you might call it instructor or faculty admin unpublished module, so that if multiple instructors are teaching the same course in a department or whatever, they've all got the same information that they need. And it travels with the course shell so that everybody has the same welcome letter or the same, you know, whatever it is that you would need if you're sharing that course, but it's unpublished. So you don't need to worry about students seeing it. Is there a page in Commons with the HTML code? I don't think I put it in Commons, but I can give you that cheat sheet, the HTML snippet cheat sheet. Yes. So that was it about hidden modules. And that's really pretty much the 5 design shortcuts that I wanted to make sure you knew about for now. As I mentioned before we started the recording, you will find the archived recording of today's webinar on the At One YouTube channel. And there is a link to that if you're not familiar with the At One YouTube channel on the CVC events calendar page. And I'm going to put that in chat so that you've got it. And because I'm a visual person, I just want to show you, when you go to that page, you're going to see this little blurb, and hidden in the midst of all of it, it says YouTube channel. And when you click the link, then you'll be able to find the video. They're in reverse chronological order typically. So the most recent will be near the top, and then you can just look through and find the title that you're looking for. Okay, what final questions does anyone have about any of these tips? And while you're thinking, I'm going to go find the cheat sheet that Bobby was asking about. And feel free to unmute and ask a question, or if you got a tip you want to share with people, because it's going to take me a second to find this. There it is. So Fabi, I will put this in chat. And for those of you that are perhaps unfamiliar with what she's talking about, there was another webinar I did on using HTML to beautify your Canvas pages. And I created a little coding snippet cheat sheet for people that are feeling adventurous around using the HTML code. So that's a public Google page, and anyone that wants to experiment can go use it. So let me ask before we close for today, what's one thing you're planning to use from today, or an idea that got sparked from something we said today. And you can either unmute or put it in chat. So how are people going to implement this information? Branding, pick a theme. Excellent. Okay. Branding. Yeah, I love branding. It really kind of enlivens it and gives us a way to be creative. The secret folder is one I think you'll find very useful as well. Free Canva Pro. Yeah, I know, Debbie, I'm with you on the files part. Great. The HTML code. Good. Glad you found it useful. And wonderful. Okay, so it sounds like people got some ideas, which is excellent. Any last minute question or tip that is yearning to be spoken to the group? Okay, and thank you, Heike, for your compliment. All right, well, it's been a pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you today. I will look forward to seeing you at some point. And I hear OTC is going to be in person next year in Long Beach, so I may see you there, and I'll look forward to it. Thanks for being here, everybody. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.